we decided to go for today. We will start by introducing very briefly. I will start by introducing very briefly what StreetNet International is about and why we're organizing this webinar on the topic of childcare and women's rights in markets. StreetNet International is a global alliance of street and market vendors organizations, and we are present in all over the world in over 60 countries and 5 continents. And today we will hear from workers' leaders, experts, scholars, organizers, and we will also have the pleasure to host a Q&A session on the topic of maternity protection and childcare in markets, especially for workers in the informal economy. The person who was supposed to open the webinar was Lorenzi Banda, StreetNet International president. She unfortunately could not join us in a presence because she's in the field doing some work, some organizing work, which is another aspect of the many roles that women in movements take on. But she shared with us audio message, which I think we will now play. So to kick off the discussion, we can listen to the words of President Lorraine. I will take another 10 seconds to just quickly thank our interpreters, Dimitri and Evangelina. They translate simultaneously in Spanish and French, and they are the people who really make all of this discussion, multilingual discussion, possible. So I think we can start with the words of President Lorraine, and then we will proceed with the discussion, thanking you and welcoming all of you once again.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the StreetNet webinar, which is a webinar aimed at marking the International Women's Day 2025 under the theme Caring in the Informal Economy, Childcare Services and Women's Rights for Street and Market Vendors. I would like to just make a few points in my opening as to why care is so important in the informal economy, especially for women working as street and market vendors. Women these days have got a multiple of tasks, being the breadwinners for families in an economy that is fast booming informally in most countries. Women are breadwinners. Women are the caretakers of everyone, not only in their families, but in their communities as well. Not only do they have to take care of their children, but they also have to take care of other adults within their family and within the community. Some of them take care of people who are chronically ill, the elderly, people with disabilities, which is an added burden of care to that of taking care of their children. Looking at the women who work as street vendors, it is very unfortunate that we continue to have this absence or deficiency of social protection, which does not consider street vendors and market vendors as legitimate workers with rights. This means that the children of these women do not have access to quality and affordable child care, such that most mothers take their children to the street where they work from and also the markets where they work from. These conditions are not conducive for the growth of the children, neither for their ability to play and their right to play and grow as any other child. So having said that, there is need for advocacy, increased advocacy for childcare in markets, safe places for children to play, safe places for children to grow, and safe places for children to be looked after while their parents work. And this will enable women to be able to work competitively and sustainably in their trade. Because as a street vendor, if one has a child, they cannot attract clients. They may be slow in serving clients because sometimes when you are serving a client and the child is tucking your dress, they also need attention, or you are breastfeeding. When a woman breastfeeds, unfortunately, there is stigma attached to that. She's considered as not so hygienic. People consider breastfeeding women to be unhygienic, and very few would buy from a breastfeeding mother. This often overlooks the right of the child to breastfeed, the right of the mother to feed her baby, which also points at another deficiency which we are not discussing today, but I would point out. It points at a deficiency of the lack of maternity benefits. All things being equal, women in the informal economy, street vendors and market vendors, also need time when they give birth to be able to rest. What we call maternity leave in the formal economy should also apply for women in the informal economy, because childbirth is uniform. It knows no economic or social barriers. And secondly, and women need the proper and safe childcare facilities so that their children can grow cognitively undisturbed by the scenes of harassment and violence which actually usually occur in the street or in the market. No child should witness anyone harassing their parent, especially a mother. So if the children are safely in a play center or in a childcare facility, they will not witness what problems and what stress a mother goes through. And women will also be able to work freely, free of the burden of always looking out and over their shoulder to see if their child is safe. I would like to wish us all a very productive discussion for this webinar, and to also encourage us never to give up. If the government cannot provide those safe childcare facilities for street vendors and market vendors, we shall initiate our own projects. Let's initiate, because we are the mothers. The children are ours. And the future of those children has got to be brighter than our own future and what we have gone through life. Being born to socially and economically deprived parents does not mean that our children should lose their right to play, their right to grow under good conditions, and their right to be children. Having said that, I thank you very much and wish you all a happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, President Lorraine, for, albeit not present with us, she brings her solidarity and her powerful words every time. So to proceed with the program, I would now we would like to show a very brief video that was produced on the field in Zimbabwe by some of the media activists who collaborate with the StreetNet media team. And the topic of this video is a testimony, a very powerful testimony of a woman street vendor. So we will now share this video, and then we can start calling the speakers to the floor. So I don't know if Margarita Aureleni, you have the video to share, right?
Yes, and I just wanted to say that this video was created, like Irene said, by media activists of our StreetNet Media Network. And these activists are members of our affiliate organizations, and they're working as communicators for them. We just had a training with Picture People MSP in Zimbabwe on how to create visual stories for impact. And this video is one of the products of that training. And it was filmed and edited by Dorcas Ishimura-Shete of Rwanda, Daniel Peralta of Guatemala, and Guadalupe Sosa of the United States. And two of those media activists, I think, are even here today in the webinar with us.
Yeah,
So
I can see Lupe and
Dorcas. Yeah, I think
Dorcas.
that I saw her here as well. And so we're very happy to be able to present to you a media product by street vendors and centering street vendor voices. And I'm also sharing the link of the YouTube video in case you have any problems watching it here on Zoom. So just a second. Here's the YouTube video. And now let me share it.
I'm Christine Shparausha, and I'm 37 years old. I've got two kids, and I'm expecting another one. Matambudziko andiri kusangana nawo mubusiness rangu. Number one ndeye competition. Kozoita dambudziko revana kuti vana handina pokuvachengetera. Nechizotomuendesa kuchikoro ndozoenda ndichizoda sei ndizomutora, ndo mamwe matambudziko andiri kusangana nawo. Socialization ndizvo zvakawanda zvandosangana nazvo kana ndichiuya nemwana zviya nemwana mumarket. Ndakamirira secommunity takawana nzvimbo yekuti vana vedu play center, takawana nzvimbo yekuti vana vedu vanoenda kunoswera vachinotamba ipapo pari padhuze pekuti ndokwanisa kuenda kunomusiya makuseni kumanheru ndoenda kunomutora, nokuti zvinezvi vana vanoenda kuchikoro makuseni 7 am na 11 vanenge vatodzoka, saka time yekuti ini ndizorore ndinenge ndisina. Saka takawana nzvimbo secommunity yekuti vana vanowana pokunge vachitambira, zvokuti ndinowana kana mukana wekuenda kunohodha, ndinowana mukana wekuenda kunoita rimwe basa rangu ndisina kuzotyira kuti mwana wangu izvizvi zvitime idzi akufanira kunge achibuda. Ingenini kune kuhealth yangu futi zvinondibatsira kuti ndoono nguva yekuzorora. Mwana wangu anenge achionawo futi mukana wokudzidza, achionawo futi mukana wokunge achitambawo nevamwe, because kuplay center munowanika zvitoi zvokutambisa. Kana ndiri pamusika handikwanisa kuafodha zvitoi zvokutambisa, atone zvimwe zvinhu zvaanotoshuvirawo mwana, but nenyaya yekuti ndiri vendor handikwanise kunge ndichiwana zvinhu zvakafanana nezvinowanika muplay center.
Thank you for showing this video, and thank you to the producer, who, as Margarita said, some of them are present here. I will now give the floor to the speakers for the discussion of today. And I would like to start with a worker leader voice. In this case, our SNI treasurer, Jeanette Niramashengesho from Kigali, Rwanda, who will speak about a practical case and a practical solution of childcare in markets, centering the experience of Kigali, and about a project that C3C, the organization affiliated to StreetNet in Rwanda, has carried out. Jeanette, you can take the floor, and we will keep the questions for later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, moderator Elaine. Thank you, dear participants. Allow me to close my video for having enough internet. So thank you for introducing me to the participants. Yes, I am Janet Nyiramasengesho. I'm the founder of StreetNet, a trade union of informal economy workers here in Rwanda. I am also the StreetNet treasurer, as you said, since 2016. I was in the council, mean that just I have enough time in StreetNet International. So thank you so much for this opportunity, just to come to share you our experience in this area of childcare service and women rights for street vendors and the markets. So I want to share my screen.
I think you should have permission, Janet.
Yes, I'm sharing. Are you seeing my screen?
No, we can't.
You can't.
No. Can you see Jeanette's screen, Margarita? No.
No, I can't.
You have to click on the green button at the bottom.
The green button. Yes, let me see. Let me come again to the. Okay, nice. Are you seeing? Do you see my screen?
No, Jeanette.
No, but if you want, Jeanette, you can also send us the presentation and we can share it for you.
Okay. Yes, give me 2 minutes, then I share you my presentation. Just give me only 2 minutes.
I have a copy of the presentation. I can share on your behalf, Jeanette.
Just I'm sharing to Margarita to see if she can.
Okay, just in case, Jeanette, if Tracy has a copy, she can maybe share her screen. But if you've just shared it with Margarita, I think we can manage.
Margarita can open. Okay. Is it coming? Just 1 minute. It's coming. I don't know what happened. Normally I had internet, full internet, but today we are experiencing bad weather. But I think I will manage to share you what I want to talk on. So just
Jeanette, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay. If
I'm with you. Just
okay.
Okay. Just I'm saying that childcare service and women rights for street and the market vendor, it's something that we really need to talk about. If you see the burden of women in the formal economy they have when they are carrying their kids on back when they are working, just that they are facing many challenges, and we need to manage their issues through our activities. So why we started working with this issue, as you know, women in the formal economy navigate early livelihood alongside childcare responsibilities. So care work, especially childcare, is critical yet often undervalued and unsupported. So you know that formal systems largely overlook the needs and there's the women creating a significant challenge. So we can just ask us a question why we are treating or focusing on street and market vendors. We, StreetNet, when we were starting, we saw that you cannot just organize street and market vendors without thinking on the issue of their kids. Here in Rwanda, they have many policies talking on the childcare issues. They even try different ways to overcome all these challenges they face, but we saw that they were not enough. If you see some ECDs they have to care their kids, they are far from where they work. You can imagine a woman wake up in the morning, then go to found the articles to sell, and she has a kid in the back. She can really not do their business easily. So why we said it is better to intervene and to see how we can manage to organize all these women in the formal sector, to see how we can encourage the government, and we can see other should I continue? Hello? Hello, Ellen, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Sorry, there was someone who was unmuted.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying that we said that it is better that we bring our effort together with the other stakeholders to see how we can be involved in bringing some solutions on the issue of children of informal economy workers, especially street vendors and market vendors. So those people, street and market vendors, are significant part of the informal economy, as you know, and they often face precarious working conditions and the lack of social protection in some countries. Children challenges are amplified due to long hours, unpredictable income, and unsafe work environment. So they have limited access to affordable and quality childcare, direct impact their livelihoods and well-being. So those are some challenges push us to be involved in bringing solutions to the issue of children, of childcare in informal workers. As you know, they have underworld work of care, those women, the informal workers. Today we are talking on women, as you know, they are the pillar of the family, they are a pillar of the society. So they do unworld work of care in the family, and also if we talk on this, we emphasize on the child care. That is essential work for families, communities, and economy. So this work of child care, it enables parents, especially mothers, to participate in the workplace, but they are really not they really don't have time to focus on their business, because they are focusing on child care, on caring their kids, and also for looking for their, not looking for their job. If you check on this status, care works is often seen as a woman work, unpaid or poorly paid and lacking recognitions. You know that there are many activities done in home with all these women, even if when they come to their business, they start working the home activities, and no one is varying the activity. So all these challenges need to be carried and need to be focused to see how we can help all these women to care their kids peacefully, and also to value their work in the society. So just I want to come on especially for our work in childcare in Rwanda. As a trade union of informal workers in Rwanda, StreetNet, you know that it represents street and the market vendor. We have also home-based workers, waste collectors, and the domestic workers. Our trade union, as I said before, it advocates for the rights of informal workers, and it provides their raising and working condition. StreetNet also recognized the critical link between child care and the women workers' empowerment. So here, if Margarita could share the screen, you see through the project with StreetNet and WIEGO, activities done to address the gap. We create some environment where we create some home ECDs for women in the formal workers, and we care the kids through the way of using mothers and other people from cells. We call them caregivers, and then we bring the solutions to see how we can find our own solutions to create some ECDs in different areas where women street vendors and the market vendors are working. So if you see the picture, this is the one ECD created by our trade union when we were bringing the solution to see how we can just help all these mothers to do not work with their kids, but to organize themselves and also to protect their kids to do not go to the street with them. In the project, we had with WIEGO and the StreetNet International, we create VSLA, is a village and saving and loan associations, and all those associations help mothers to found money and also to save the money to help their kids, and also to pay all these needs in the ECDs, home-based ECDs created by our trade union. So they have some objective. The first one is working toward sustainable and community-based child care solutions.
Hey, Jeanette, we lost you.
Yes, are we together?
Yeah. Is this the correct slide that I'm sharing?
Yes, Project Key. Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah,
Go ahead,
Project Key
please.
initiatives. So I said that we create 20 VSLA groups. It's a village saving and loan association groups for informal workers and the parent with children aged 3 to 5 years. So saving group benefits to be used for child feeding fees and caregivers payment. So the importance of all 20 or
I think we might have lost Jeanette again, no?
I say that do you hear me? I say that just they create we create 20 VSLA group. The importance of this organizing women in groups, it's for saving money that's being used for to feed their kids and also to pay the caregivers. Another thing that I want to say is that just they take one home from them, and then they bring together all these kids, and they have rotation to stay with their kids. If today I am with the kids, tomorrow is another mother. So they organize in this way of caring their kids and also managing the rotation themselves. So we do training for pregnant women, and also we show them how they can prepare balanced diet and see how they can just help their kids to protect them on malnutrition and stunting. So seriously empowered women to invest in their kids, and also they start working together, and also we teach them how they can solve their own problems through this way of working together. So in the second phase of the project, we create mid-stakeholder platform where we sit together with the local authorities, with the other stakeholders involved in child care protection. And then we meet quarterly and we discuss the issue we are facing, especially in the informal sector, in favor of having some ideas on the position to influence the policies where we found the gap. So in this platform, we also meet with the National Childhood Development Agency, NCDA, where we present our thoughts according to the policies in place. If you see here, we were together with the representative from National Childhood Development Agency talking on the issue of children. And then we are planning to be part of the national forum of stakeholders in the government. So this platform helps us to collect data, to collect information, and also to understand deeply the issue of children. And then we will present all these thoughts in the national forum, which are chaired by National Childhood Development and co-chaired by UNICEF. So those are activities done by StreetNet. So also StreetNet convenes a quarterly multi-stakeholders platform because we say this is a
Did we lose Jeanette?
We lost Jeanette again. Are you there, Jeanette?
yes, I'm very sorry.
No, it's okay. It
I'm
happens.
just
No
saying,
worries.
I'm really experiencing bad internet. I don't know what happened. So I'm saying that this forum was established to discuss the issue affecting children of informal workers and find solutions. Just I think I come to explain that. We want also to promote the dialogue and the collaboration for effective policy and the program development. It was very, very important to us to meet with the stakeholders to discuss the issues. Before we were starting organizing ourselves, working in this area as a trade union, no one was involved with us, but now with this platform, we are just organizing the meetings and also we are finding some solutions together, which will be presented to the forum, which is planned to come in few months. In collaboration with the StreetNet International, StreetNet conducted a study on life conditions of informal cross-border traders' children. We found that life conditions of all these kids are not cared, comparing to the number of ECDs and border posts around in the market. So, in collaboration also with the WIEGO, there is an upcoming study. I think Tracy will explain more about that because she's our consultant. And we work together since in this phase of the project. So I think she will explain more about that because we want at the end to deeply understand the child care issue in Rwanda generally, and also we will document specific needs and the gap in child care service. So study fundings will also inform advocacy and the program development for better child care solutions in the formal sector. So I think the role StreetNet is playing now is really relevant because even our members, street vendors, I'm just saying that we are playing a big role, and now we are working with any CDA. We agree that we should be involved clearly in the market ECDs, and then we will. I hope that we will have recommendations from the research, and also we will share to all of you what we are doing and also what we are for the next phase, because we are planning to to be involved more than we do that in child care issues. So I think here on screen you are reading what we are calling to action, and we recognize child care as essential work and share the responsibility. And also we think to protect the rights of women in the formal economy to work and care, and also recognizing their work, not forgetting that even if they are caring our kids, we need also to see how we can remove the burden of working with their kids, and also to help them being involved, especially in their business. So Value Care works through policies, programs, and investment. It's also our wish, and also we are really involved in this kind of advocating for women, organizing, mobilizing, and also take care of child care issues here in Rwanda. So I want to end my presentation saying that let's work together to create a more equitable and supportive environment for women, street and market vendor and their children. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jeanette. And we did experience some technical challenge, but I think that your presentation was very clear. So thank you very much. I think you already mentioned it during your speech that now we are going to give the floor to Tracy Koske, the Childcare in Markets project coordinator for WIEGO, who will present us she will speak a little bit more about the role of WIEGO in this project, and also she will share some useful resources. So the floor is yours, Tracy, and you have maybe 10 minutes, 12 minutes to present. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes.
I can see. Perfect. Thank you.
Put it in slideshow. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. As Irene has mentioned, my name is Tracy Koske. I'm the childcare coordinator for the Childcare in Markets project. And the project itself is implemented in 3 countries, Rwanda, Ghana, and South Africa. And today I'm going to talk about a bit of WIEGO and how we work with informal workers within the countries that we work in, and also the research that Jeanette talked about a bit. So WIEGO works with domestic workers, market traders, street vendors, waste pickers, and home-based workers through 4 global networks. And the first one is the StreetNet International. We also work with HomeNet International, the International Alliance of Waste Pickers, and International Domestic Workers Federation. Our engagement strategy is shaped by the needs and the demands of these workers, and particularly focus is usually on improving the socioeconomic well-being of the mothers and the overall development of children. An example of one of the projects that has been inspired by the demands of the workers is the childcare work at WIEGO, which came as a demand which came as a request or as a demand from the workers a few years back. Our work in childcare, as I've mentioned, is implemented in 3 countries, and we have been in operation for the last about 5 years. And early last year, we came to a resolution to start to document the experiences that we have faced. And all this, the best practices, the key learnings, and the success stories have now been compiled in an ebook, which I believe will be shared in the chat so that you can look at it, because I'll make reference to some of the pages where you can have a look. The Childcare in Markets ebook is a story of how informal workers in these 3 countries are informing, developing, and implementing childcare policy and running early childhood development centers in marketplaces. And these centers play a very big role in reducing the burden on women who both work and also provide care for their children and also for their families. These are some of the excerpts that I was talking about. Could you just give me a second? Yeah, these are some of the examples that I was talking about. And from this, you recognize that, or you'll acknowledge that women working in these setups, market traders and street vendors, do recognize that the environment that they take their children or the environment that they work are very risky and dangerous for their children. And what happens is that when they take their children to such places, the children have a risk of getting hurt, getting ill. And they also not only recognize that the dangerous environments that they work in, but they also know that their children are missing out. And one of the traders in Ghana said that there's actually, like, because they work in South Africa, mentioned that there's actually no time for children. And because they work as they care for their children do not get the attention that they deserve. One other woman from Ghana mentioned that when you see how you care for your child and how other families care for your children, you actually acknowledge that there's something that your child is missing, but you have no option but to work so that you can put food on the table. And that is the plight of informal workers within Africa and even across the globe. The ebook actually recognized some of the issues, the key issues that the informal workers go through when trying to access childcare. Sorry, I can't go to the next. Yeah. So these are the key issues that have been highlighted in the ebook. And one of them is that it's a little bit sad, but rather informal women workers are not seen as childcare users in policy discussions. And when you talk about that, you can imagine being in a position where you have a child, but then discussions around you about childcare do take places, but you're not invited to participate because one, you're not seen as a user of childcare service, but also secondly, mostly because the childcare centers that have been established, the hours are the ones that are inhibiting you from accessing these places because you work outside 8 to 5, but then the childcare centers operate between 8 to 5. So in a sense that it's in a sense the operations of the childcare centers actually force you not to be a user of the available childcare services, which was a big issue that we recognized. The other issue that I can say is the lack of protection. Despite not being okay, like being formally employed, you also do not have maternity leave. So because you work to put food on the table, a lot of the women come back from work from the maternity leave a week or 2 weeks after they've given birth. They have no access to insurance, and most women also do not have access or are not provided financial support for childcare. One of the other things that was highlighted was how even in places where childcare facilities have already been established, how it has been planned or where it is located limits its accessibility. For example, you might be working within a market, but then the closest childcare facility that has been established is 30 minutes walk. Yet you have let's say a 2 months baby who needs to be breastfed like every other 45 minutes or even every other hour. So that how it's been planned or where it's been established limits you from really wanting to use the childcare facility. There also an issue about affordability constraints, and that is because we do not have, in most countries, especially in Africa, we do not have public childcare facilities, and so the private ones that exist are run for business, but not as a public good. So a lot of the times, it is expensive for informal workers to access, and then, as highlighted earlier on, the unsafe environment where these women work actually is very hazardous for children, and that's a big issue. Sorry. So what the ebook has also done is to identify, I summarized into 3 main points, and one is these approaches. One is the engagement and the advocacy as an approach that we are using at WIEGO. And we try to build bridges between, or to bridge the gap between the traders, the market vendors, and the policymakers. And this is evident in Ghana, where the team in Ghana worked together with 55 other stakeholders to develop the guidelines and standards for childcare in markets. And that was a very huge step, because once they were developed and they were published, they are now annexed to the national ECD policy in Ghana. Another very unique and innovative solution, and when we say about when Lorraine said that we don't have to wait for the government to provide solutions, we need to start working ourselves to provide solutions for our women. Reminded me of this case in South Africa. The Asia Etafuleni is the organization we work with, and they have came up with this idea. We call it the care crate. And this care crate is just as you can see in the pictures. If you have access to the ebook, it's on page 26 and 27. And these care crates, they are constructed using the packing crates that the traders usually use to store their goods. And it's curated in a way that if you see, there's also a video somewhere that shows how you can use it. It gives places where you can do storage, nappy change, a child can sleep safely within the setup of a market without any interactions. So I'll now go and talk about WIEGO priorities. We have three major priorities. The first one is supporting worker power. And when we talk about worker power, we work with women organizations such as trade unions, cooperatives, and collectives to raise their demands and change policies. And together, we participate in creating civic spaces by supporting women worker leaders to put their issues on the negotiating table with either local authorities, with national governments, and international organizations such as maternity protections and childcare. We also promote inclusive laws and policies where we convene and seek out emerging national and global policy spaces to promote alternatives. So whenever there are, for example, conferences where you can air out your opinions or your voices on the plight of what you're doing, or like the informal workers in totality, we try to push for recognition also of other childcare alternative models of childcare provision that consider women informal workers needs. And number three, we do research with Workers for Workers to improve statistics and expand the knowledge on the informal economy. And what we have seen is that in other setups that we did the research, it has helped us to debunk the harmful economic, legal, and policy narratives that undermine and stigmatize workers, including women, migrants, and racial and ethnic minorities. For example, one of the thing that we had to debunk was that like women workers are usually seen as secondary breadwinners whose primary responsibility is to care for their children. But then what we have found out and what we have been able to prove is that most women in low-income households who must engage in paid work and need childcare support. So they do both works. They do, yes, provide the childcare support, but they still work within, they still engage in paid work. Another example now of the research, which will provide us with a nice segue into now talking about the research, is that the research that we are doing in Rwanda is also an attempt to shed light onto the roles that women play while also trying to earn a living. And what I'm sharing now are the objectives of the research. I've summarized them into three for the purpose of the presentation. And the first objective is to develop indicators for one, assessing the working and the living conditions of women and children in and around markets. And then the second one, the indicators will also help us assess the ECD services available to working women. And that when we talk about working women for this study is informal workers, and we look at accessibility, affordability, and even the quality of ECD services. But even one thing that I need to also add is participation. How much do they participate in the decisions of the childcare facility on either what the child eats, what the program of the child will look like, and so on, and even just to give feedback to the childcare facility. The second objective of the study is to determine the sufficiency of existing ECD facilities. while also identifying requirements for additional center. For instance, if we have one childcare facility in a market, what do we need to ensure that we have an extra one, or why is this particular childcare facility not enough or is not serving the needs of informal workers? And within that objective, we also want to look at the conditions conducive for setting up ECDs in markets. The third and the final objective is to investigate the awareness levels of childcare policies among stakeholders and communities. And for this objective, we want to look at how much do people know about the rights of children, the childcare services. How much do they know about as women, how much do they know about their rights in accessing ECD services? What do they know about the services that are provided within the childcare facilities? What are they entitled to, and what can they fight for? What is a public good, and what do they need to pay for, and so on. So those are the objectives, a summary. The next part now, I'll delve not really deep, but rather just to give an overview of how the questions, what some of the sections that the questions have gone into. And then this is my last slide where I'll just briefly talk about the next steps. So there are two drafts, there are two surveys that have been developed. And one is for informal workers, and the second one is for the care workers providing the childcare services within these ECD facilities. And the survey on informal workers has been divided into 7 sections. And the first section talks about or asks questions about household composition. And we're looking at within your household, how many children do you have? How many are aged below the age of 5, or maybe up to 10, up to 18? Are these all your children, or are you staying with a relative's child, and so on? Are you the primary caregiver within this household? Are you the primary provider or the breadwinner? Is it a single-headed household, and so on? So that's what we are asking in the section 1. And section 2, we delve into affordability of the basic needs, and that is shelter, food, clothing, and so on. So who provides all this? And for example, if you have shelter, are you renting it, or is it inherited? Is it yours? Yeah, etc. We go to section 3 where we talk about access to basic social protection, maternity protections, social protection, and so on. How much do they have access to one? Is it public or private? How much do they pay? Yeah, and so on. Then section 4, we go into the work conditions and the work routine. What time do they go to work? What time do they close? Do they have any other responsibilities after they close? And we ask them to list them down. And when we look at the working conditions, do they have access to clean water, access to storage facilities? Do they have access to like the spaces where they sell? Do they pay for it? And the licensing, which also comes in hand with section 5, which talks about how much they earn per day on average and how much they lose. And when look, not really lost, but then what in their perception, how much do they lose when they go with their child to work? Because Lorraine talked about the stigma of breastfeeding and the understanding that when you bring a child to work, you have divided attention for both your child and also for the business. So that's what comes in section 5. And section 6, we also just ask about what kind of childcare services they access and the reasons for their choices. And when we talk about choices, like you choose a childcare facilities, why does that work for you? You choose to come with your child to work, why does that work for you? You chose to leave your child with the grandparents or the neighbors, how is that working for you? And so on. And then finally, section 7, we talk about nutrition and child feeding, breastfeeding, and also just nutrition on what kind of food is provided for their children if they take them to the childcare facilities. And so that gives a summary on the informal workers survey. When you go into the care workers survey, we are really interested about their working conditions. One is, do they have a contract? And does this contract, is it negotiable? And if they also have a contract, does it stipulate some of the direct and the indirect services, like care services that is provided in a childcare facility? We want to know whether they have access to childcare facilities, whether they bring their child to that childcare facility, or do they also just prefer another form of childcare facility, and so on. So those are the two surveys. And so for the next steps now, we want to do the data collection and of course the analysis. But then rather the process of it is that we are not just doing it but like Tracy and with WIEGO, but we have a consultant on the ground, and we are also getting some oversight from NCDA, an organization that Jeanette talked about earlier on, the National Child Development Agency, that provides oversight for any ECD work within Rwanda. So yeah, that comes to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. Irene, I'm handing it back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Tracy. And thank you also for specifying the important role of workers' powers in this whole process, which is really what StreetNet is all about. I remind you that the ebook that Tracy was talking about, I shared the link in the Zoom chat. Tracy, just a quick question. Is it available only in English or also other languages?
I'll need to find that out and actually share with you all the, if there is another language, I'll share them with you for disbursement.
Okay, great. So we will share resources after the end of the webinar. And thank you very much again for your presentation. I will now pass the mic to a representative of the International Labour Organization, Ida Kimeza. She's a gender and women rights specialist, and she will go more in depth about the international and legal aspects of childcare as a woman's right. So Ida, I think you're with us. I don't know if you have any presentation to share, but in case, feel free to share the screen. Great, I can see.
Okay, thank you, Irene, for the opportunity, and good afternoon from my end. Good morning, good evening, colleagues. I just want to thank the speakers that have come before me and just comment on the great work that they are doing in their respective spaces. And representing the International Labour Organization, I was requested to give an overview in terms of policy perspectives around issues of maternity protection, child protection, focusing on women's rights and children's rights as we go. So just as I start, I just want to express that a couple of years ago, we initiated a study in Zimbabwe, which is a national assessment on the provision of care services through cooperatives and other social solidarity economy entities. And that study was focusing on childcare options for street vendors and domestic workers. And actually, Lorraine and your other colleagues at StreetNet are informants, and they've been part of the process in terms of looking at the findings and putting our hands and efforts together to see how we can use that, disseminate that information, and also lobby in terms of policy. So it's after we spoke, Irene, that I then realized that yes, we've done some work with StreetNet and WIEGO, of course. There's an ongoing relationship with the ILO. So colleagues, I'm not going to take much time. I do have a lot to say, but I will try and summarize in terms of my presentation. Just to give an overview and qualify, when we talk about the world of work, what do we mean? Who are we talking about? As you know, the world of work has become broad, particularly also post-COVID, where we have seen even some of the traditionally people who were working in the formal space are now also teleworking or working virtually. So just to qualify that my presentation, and when I talk about the world of work, we are inclusive. We're talking about when you look at the horizontal sectors, we are talking about the formal economy, the informal economy, as well as people who are self-employed. When we talk also about sectors, We are inclusive of the government and all its employees. You appreciate that in most countries, the government is the biggest employer. We also talk about the private sector, in which we have employers as an entity, as well as trade unions or organized labor, as well as we also have civil society. And within now all this, the broad world of work, we also have sectors, industrial sectors, which also includes domestic workers as a sector, informal economy as well. And it's embracing also, when you look at the ILO standards, they cover even job seekers. So we're talking about instruments that cover not just people who are gainfully employed, but also those who are seeking employment. So I just thought it's important that we qualify and contextualize the world of work, which is, I'm sure all of us, we are familiar with. My slides are not moving here. I don't know what is happening.
I can see the next slide, I think.
You could see the next slide. On my
it was
end,
the one about
wasn't.
Convention 183, right?
No,
Okay,
it should be
there you
this
go.
one. Okay. So when we look at ILO, if you were to say what is one of the primary purposes of the organization, as you know, it was founded in 1919, soon after the First World War ended. And we are part of the UN family, though the UN came later in the mid-40s. ILO was already in existence since 1919. So we have a situation of where the baby is older than the mother. So one of the key functions or mandates of the organization is to set standards, to discuss within the tripartite setting, where we have governments, usually represented by ministries of labor, employer organizations, and organized labor. So we are a standard setting organization. So there are multiple conventions that have been put into place, that have been passed over the years. And here on the screen, I'm not going to read through all of them. I've listed some of the ones that link strongly to gender. Having said that, you appreciate issues of gender are cross-cutting, so you'd find that gender is mentioned and is part of almost all the conventions, but there are some which we recognize as key standards pertaining to issues of gender equality, non-discrimination, and inclusion. And this also includes the Convention 190 on ending violence and harassment, which was passed in 2019. It's one of the most recent conventions that we have in place. But for today, for the theme that we are talking about as we commemorate International Women's Day, I'm going to just quickly go through two of the conventions, which is Convention 183 on maternity protection, as well as Convention 156, which recognizes workers with family responsibilities. So when you look at the provisions of Convention 183 on maternity protection, it's a set of public measures that promote the rights to work of women of reproductive age without threat or discrimination. So you'll find that, sometimes even at the point of recruitment, some employers are discriminatory because they do not engage or hire young people, young women in particular, because they don't want to have to pay, grant them maternity leave and paid maternity leave which is the status in many countries. So in this instrument, it includes, it covers the woman from pregnancy, childbirth, onto postnatal period and breastfeeding. So colleagues, as we listen, as I am sharing this information about the instruments, you find that yes, in terms of application, these instruments have been predominantly covering workers within the formal setting. However, the purpose of my first slide was to show and demonstrate that even workers who are working outside the formal spaces, workers within the informal economy, workers within the subsectors of the informal economy, including street vendors, transport, cross-border transporters, and you know, it comes, there are different subsectors within the economy. They are also covered by these instruments. And because the world is changing, particularly in the developing world, we have the backing of these instruments to lobby for provisions of some of these, using some of these conventions and laws, international instruments, to lobby for our members, particularly the women. So this instrument covers health protection, pregnancy and maternal and child health care, and also protection, employment protection, which means if a woman then is pregnant, she has the right to be granted maternity leave, which is paid. In some countries, it's a proportion. In some countries, all of it is paid by the employer. In some countries, it's shared between the employer and the government via some social protection measures. And it allows the woman to go and give birth and take care of the child in the early stages and allow her time to also recuperate. You appreciate that as women, after you've given birth, it takes time for your body, for your system, for your mental health to recover from the I don't want to say trauma, but from all that is involved in terms of childbirth. And over and above, when a woman then goes back to work after the 2, 3, 4 months standard maternity leave that is granted, also having access to breastfeeding, either in most countries it's an hour, or in some cases, women actually have childcare facilities within the workspace, and they're able to go to the childcare center and feed their child regularly. Also linked to that is Convention 156, which is on workers with family responsibilities. This is an instrument that calls for a more balanced sharing of family responsibilities. I think my previous speakers did speak to the fact that women carry the burden of care work. I'm going to share some statistics in a moment to demonstrate that. So awareness raising campaigns to encourage men to participate more in family responsibilities, family-friendly policies and social security measures will help women to stay in the workplace and also be productive. Even if it is a street vendor, they can be more productive. I think the previous speaker, was it Tracy, was talking about how if a woman has a child with her at work at the market, she's giving both the child and the business divided attention, and they both suffer from that. And it also then leaves her more exhausted because their competitors, the video from Zimbabwe, the woman was saying that the competition is one of the challenges that she faces. Is because women without those childcare responsibilities are able to do more and do more, run a market and her services more efficiently. If she's going to go and order the goods from somewhere, whether they're buying, selling fresh vegetables. It means a trip to the market early morning and then coming back to sell from the space that a market is. So all that will become even heavier on the woman who has a child on her back and who has to now carry not only the weight of her goods, but also carry the child. So we appreciate even the model that was being shared earlier from WIEGO to say, how can we keep children safer in these spaces? I want to talk more. So those are the two conventions. Convention 183 on maternity protection. It's available online to read through the provision. You can also see in terms of domestication in your respective country, what elements of from those instruments have been domesticated into national laws. So that is the Maternity Protection Convention 183, as well as Convention 156 on family with workers with family responsibilities. Moving forward, last year, the ILO at the ILO International Labour Conference, a resolution was passed, and this resolution is on decent work and the care economy. It is an indication of the recognition of care work, of the importance of care work within economies globally, and particularly even more so within the developing world. So just to share some statistics that informed that milestone that we have 606 million working age women who are operating outside the workforce due to care responsibilities. So you can see how much, women are being left out economically. Women are not actively participating in the labor force due to care responsibilities. And if you put this against men who are, we have a statistics of 43 million working age men who are outside the workforce due to care responsibilities. We also have 381 million care workers worldwide, the majority of whom are in domestic work. And you also look proportionally, women are also constitute the bigger proportion of people working in domestic work. And 70% of the domestic workers are migrant workers. So you can see the intersectionality now of coming into play when you look at issues of care, women carrying the bigger burden, and then the migration issues. And when you look at formal care work, we have 1 in 8 nurses, 13% of whom are also migrant workers. When you look at issues of the gender pay gap, as the ILO Convention 100, Convention 100 promotes equal pay for work of equal value. So globally, we have a gender pay gap of 24% in the health and care sectors. And when you look at all the sectors combined, the gender pay gap sits at 20%. So it will fluctuate depending on the region. It will be higher in some regions, but this is an average statistic. So I'm sharing this statistic so that we can see the scale of the problem or the issues that we are talking about. Hence, they are now coming back on the table within the ILO to discuss. We are hoping that beyond now having this resolution being passed, dialogues will continue amongst the tripartite constituents. I know that some of the listeners now are also part of the country delegations when they go to the International Labour Conference, depending on what issues are are being discussed, so that they are also informants and they also add the voice, particularly of the informal economy, in some of these discussions. The highlight there in red is showing that in high-income countries, a migrant care worker is likely to earn 19.6% less than a non-migrant care worker. So this is also issues of pay gap, not only based on gender, but also on migration status. So allow me to just take a few minutes to just share a little bit more about the resolution that was passed in 2024 as indicated. It sets a context, a common understanding, and provides guiding principles and policy recommendations on issues of care within the informal economy. And this is informed by these gaps that are in the changing world of work, where we have paid care workers who are facing long hours, and there are deficits in terms of protection, particularly around issues of occupational safety and health. There are risks, exposures to issues of violence and harassment, and severe staff and skills shortages. When we talk about unpaid carers, who are primarily women, they experience a substantial increase in unpaid care work, which negatively impacts their participation in the labor force. And then we have mega trends, including demographic, technological, and climate change, which are creating new demands for care while altering modes of delivery for care work. There are some guiding principles that have been identified that are supporting this resolution on care work, providing care work within the decent work sphere. And
Ida, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, can you wrap up in a couple of minutes, please?
Yes,
Would that be possible? Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm going to. Yeah, so we have the issues of the guiding principles that labor is not a commodity. Labor in the care economy is not a commodity. When someone comes to work and providing a service, they should be, it's their right to be recognized and acknowledged and paid for it. And also all care workers should enjoy decent work. And let me quickly also go through what the ILO has identified as a 5R framework for decent care work, which provides a framework for integrated and coherent strategies for decent care within the care economy. And in particular, the first R is about recognition. This is what we were talking about. A lot of the work that is happening within the informal economy is not recognized. Hence, you have people working with an illegal status. They're always running away from authorities because of that recognition that is not there. So the first R is on recognizing the work, particularly care work in its entirety, reducing it by redistributing it within the family and within the community and within the wider society, as well as rewarding and promoting representation of care work, representation of care workers. Because when we talk about representation, issues of collective bargaining are very, very critical to us as the International Labour Organization. And also under the resolution, investing in the care economy, it can lead to social and economic development. So when we invest in universal childcare and long-term care services, we should be able to generate up to 299 million new jobs by 2035. So this is a finding from one of the studies that has been done by the ILO. As I conclude, I just want to highlight a few areas or critical areas in terms of developing integrated care policies and systems. It's important to have comprehensive maternity protection, paternity, parental and other care leaves. And I know that within the informal economy, we are now advocating for some of these provisions under social protection within the broader government, but also coming together with our own strategies and modalities to provide some of these provisions. Support micro and small medium enterprises and SSE entities, including cooperatives and other community-led initiatives, and also looking at the undervaluation of care work and an equal and gender distribution of paid and unpaid and paid work. So if you look at the provisions of the resolution, I think I'll extract and put also a link in the chat so that colleagues can also care. You'll find all these issues, they are listed, and we can access them in terms of getting more issues around where the ILO is in terms of promoting care work within the decent work agenda. Thank you, colleagues. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Ida. This was a very comprehensive presentation, and thank you for mentioning the international legal instruments. I think it's very important for us as StreetNet, as advocacy tools, to get to know these instruments as well as we can. So I remind you that all of the presentations will be made available. And now I will pass the mic to our last speaker for this session before getting to the Q&A and then concluding. Apologies for being a little bit over time. I will now give the floor to Sanyo Awori, apologies, from AWID. She is the Feminist Economies Manager, and she will speak about the global link between labor rights and women's rights. I don't want to anticipate too much, but Sanyo, the floor is yours. Ida, can you stop sharing the screen? Okay, there we go.
Great, thank you so much. And actually, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, so it will just be my face you will have to look at. But I want to just start off by saying it really is an honor to be here in conversation with all of you. I really appreciate the cross-movement solidarity, and this is exactly the kind of spaces we want to be in as AWID. And I just want to say, for maybe folks who are not familiar, that AWID is an organization that works globally to support and uplift the work of feminist movements. And at AWID, I manage the program on building feminist economies, and people always ask, what are feminist economies? What do you mean? How do we build them? And it's this discussion exactly. And so on the occasion of International Women's Day, and in solidarity with street and market vendors, I'll start where feminists tell us to start, which is that care work is essential work. And it is central to sustaining life, and it's a social function, and therefore it should be at the center of how we organize our economies. And we have a long way to go, as the previous speakers have shown. And why do we have a long way to go? Because it has everything to do with who largely performs care work. As Ida was sharing those statistics, in no country in the world do men and women engage in an equal share of unpaid care work. Women and girls are undertaking 76% more care work globally, right? And as Jeanette said earlier, care work is seen as women's work. And what we are saying as feminists is that, no, it's not a women's problem. It's a societal one. It's not a private problem. It's the responsibility of the state, of our governments. We're calling on our governments to step up and shoulder this burden of care and not expect women to do it as we have always been. As has been shared there, the binary of the informal economy and the formal economy. And actually, as African feminists, we contest the ways in which these divisions are weaponized to exclude protections and rights and benefits for those working in the informal economy. The Kenyan feminist, Wangari Kinoti, and I know there's some Kenyans on this call, so Wangari often says we must recognize informal economies as the engine of African markets and as the economies that are actually sustaining the livelihoods and creating opportunities. And seeing how this binary of informal and informal replicates injustices. And so as feminists, we insist that all women, whether you are formally employed, informally employed, not employed at all, must be able to access quality care services. And the state must play a role in redistributing this work. We want to negotiate a social contract where care is seen as a public good and a human right, where it's accounted for in our national and local budgets so that they are quality and diverse options available and accessible to women, and that take into account the context in which, for example, street and market vendors are. And for too long, governments have taken for granted that women will shoulder this burden, right? And we're often told that there's no money to invest in quality systems of care. But I'm here to say there is money. We see the budget increases in military spending. Right now, pick a year, and there's data that shows how military spending just keeps on increasing and is at an all-time high across all regions. Why? We see the many billions that are lost when multinational corporations are not paying their fair share of taxes. So we know that the resources are out there, and there are ways to get more of it. It's just quite simply about what governments choose to prioritize, which is why we can't talk about care and care services and the care services that street and market vendors deserve without connecting it to the macroeconomic policies that we are being subjected to in the global south, spearheaded by international finance institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. So for countries like mine, the levels of debt that we're facing is also at an all-time high. And our governments are using a majority of their revenue to service these debts. So it means that African governments, for example, are spending more money on repaying debt than they are spending on health and social services. And actually, this debt crisis is made worse by when we have the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, negotiate. We have then loans that we're negotiating with them, and often a condition of these loans are for governments to cut their social spending, right? And in fact, it even gets worse because it starts with cut your social spending, and then that's when we see the consumption taxes go up. We see the labor rights start to get weakened. We see the subsidies, whether it's fuel, for example, or different subsidies start to get eliminated. We all of a sudden hear governments insist on public-private partnerships. This is part of the package that comes when we are negotiating and dealing with the International Monetary Fund. And unfortunately for us, social services are often the first to go in times of austerity. Healthcare, childcare, elderly care, social protection are often the first on the chopping block. And so, for example, in Kenya last year, I'm sure you're following, we had protests rejecting a finance bill led by the courageous and fearless young people of Kenya. And part of those protests were also because not only are we seeing tax hikes, but we were also seeing care services get cut. So for example, we have like a Linda Mama program, which provides maternal health care for women at any stage of their pregnancy and even 3 months post-delivery. And the budget for this was cut in half. And so to just say that everything is connected, the decisions made at tables in Washington, D.C., then determine whether street and market vendors in Kenya, for example, can access quality childcare. And so that's just why as feminists, we insist that this overall economic paradigm we find ourselves in has to change. It has to change because what we value has to change. Often our governments talk about creating policies to incentivize and encourage businesses, right? And often they're talking about multinational businesses. But what about creating a favorable environment for street and market vendors? And what if we insisted that part of that means that care cannot be commodified? It has to remain public. It has to remain accessible. And that we're not asking, this isn't a favor. We know that care is vital to how societies sustain themselves. And so we need governments to put their money where our lives are. And that's in systems of care. And just to say also that as feminists, we really resist the commodification of care because we have decades and decades and decades of research, evidence, our lives, that show that when you commodify, when you privatize, when you start to introduce user fees, it becomes more expensive. Tracy was showing from the research that, when the care services become a business, then it becomes too expensive for market vendors to use, which is why we're insisting that care services must remain public. This is how we can interrupt systems that keep working class women disenfranchised. And so the solution isn't to turn care into a business opportunity, it's to defend it as a public good. I'll just close now so that we've got some room for questions around, I want to uplift the work done by the International Network for Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So they have a social pact on care. So Ida was talking about the ILO framework, that had the 5 R's. And I'll drop a link in the chat. The Social Pact of Care has a 6th R. So we have the recognize and make visible care, redistribute care, reduce the time burden, rights, absolutely. We also have representation, the idea about nothing about us without us. And I want to really insist that, it's about, street and market vendors shaping the governance of what care looks like. But our 6th R is about reframing our economy and reclaiming our economy and reclaiming the public nature of care services, and restoring the primary responsibility of public care on the state. So this is how we think we can build the feminist economies we deserve. And I'm really interested in hearing questions and what you're all simmering with. So I'll leave it here. And once again, it's been an honor. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanyu. And so now we have time for a few questions, not a lot, unfortunately, because we ran over time, but all of the speakers are available to take maybe 1 or 2 questions. I ask you to be as brief as concise as possible in the spirit of not going more over time than we already are, but really thank you, Sanyu, for this brilliant conclusion. I think you brought together a lot of points that were made by the other speakers and during the overall debate and discourse of today. So I think Margarita will moderate the Q&A, and please again be brief, and we can take I think a couple of questions or 3 if you're very concise.
Thanks, Irene. So as Irene said, we're taking questions now. So if you have a question, just please put it in the chat or raise your hand. We have one hand raised from Gladys Mponda from Malawi. Gladys, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for all the presentations. We have learned something. I just wanted to know about Rwanda. How they have done the child care in the local markets. I just wanted to know because I came late. I didn't hear her presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Gladys. So I can share with you the presentation after as well. But maybe I'll also ask if Jeanette can just tell us a little bit about how that project is going. If you can summarize a little bit, Jeanette.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Margarita. Thank you, Gladys, for the question. So in Rwanda, we have policy from the government allowing ECDs everywhere, in the village, in the market, at work. And what we did as a StreetNet, we implement the policy through this way, trying to create some ECDs near the market. So there are ECDs created by the government in the market. There are other ones created by UNICEF near the borders. But all these ECDs, our members, informal traders, are not able to send their kids because some of them are expensive. So what we did, we organized ourselves. We mobilize women traders, and then they start creating their own ECD in the market. And we have one in the Kimirongo sector. And also they try also to create home-based ECDs, not far from the market, but not inside the market. So it comes from their initiatives after having training, advocacy. In the project, we get support from StreetNet International through WIEGO. So it is not easy. You know that to create ECD, it requires space, it requires tools and also caregivers. So I say that they arrange themselves to rotate. One come today to care the kids, another one come tomorrow. So it is like an organization, but we get up to organize them because we had a project that helped us to mobilize, and we create in them this spirit of having their own ECDs, not waiting for the government to create, even if there are some from the government which are expensive. So it is that way we use to create our own ECDs. There are not more, but it is a long journey. We are still doing that, organizing, creating. I think through the project with the WIEGO, we are planning to approach the authorities, and they are with us to work together. And we hope that we'll just expand our thoughts to create more ECDs in the market, because we saw that it is really helping them to increase their business. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. And I think it's really interesting how one of the main themes that I can see here today is really that it's important to keep pressure on governments and other stakeholders, but it's very important also that we ourselves come up with solutions for childcare, we as workers, as women. I have one more question from Comrade Carlos from Ecuador. Carlos, if you're there, the floor is yours.
Hello from Quito, Ecuador. First of all, I just want to say congratulate Happy Women's Day. To celebrate this celebration of women should not only be on March the 8th, the 7th of March or the 9th of March. We shouldn't overlook women for the rest of the year. I think the rights not only should be, we shouldn't be embracing the women, celebrating women on the 8th of March. I also wanted to comment And I wanted to congratulate you for the presentations that you showed and the experience in Ecuador. I'm only going to say two things. One, we've created where I'm located in the metropolitan area of Quito. There are programs to the care not only of children of workers but also of people of low income people. They're called WAWA centers, and the municipality invests in these centers. But in order to have these centers, we struggled for many years, and it was implemented in 2019. These centers. And the other thing I want to mention is that the national level, they're not enough, but they're called centers for the for children development, for children from 6 months of age to 3 years old or 4 years old, and then they implement for the first years of education, basic education. We could say that from 1 to 10, Ecuador has covered 5%, but we could do more. And about that, I wanted to ask the peers from WIEGO and StreetNet to ask you what is the incidence. What is the incidence of WIEGO in Ecuador? Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. So maybe to answer that question, I will call on Tracy. Tracy, if you're here.
Could he clarify what he means by incidence?
I think
Or
he
does
means
it mean
that,
like existence?
Yeah, the work of WIEGO in Ecuador, if there is any.
Perhaps I need to get in touch with Carlos later on, because I'm not very sure we have any work currently in Ecuador, but we have a bit of work in Latin America. With the Americas, I need to confirm. Please share your email address, and then I will reach out to you and with all the information that you may need for this. And perhaps maybe you could get an answer from someone else who comes from within the area. But then as for me, I need to check that and write to you, Carlos. My apologies for that.
No problem, Tracy. And actually, from what I know, I think that WIEGO, has the focal cities in Peru, but I am actually not also very aware of WIEGO's work in Ecuador. I'm sure maybe there has been some research, but it's not one of the main the main parts of the world where WIEGO works.
Okay.
Now, because I'm not seeing any more hands up, I'm actually going to pass the mic to our international coordinator, Oksana Abud, for closing remarks, since we are already a little bit over time. Oksana, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Margarita. Thank you so much, our dear speakers, our dear participants. I see a lot of our faces, our leaders, our youth reporters, our media activists, our staff members, and of course, invited guests and partners. Mariana also from Oxfam. It's very rare to see you, but we are very happy for your presence today. So, of course, the issue of provision of childcare and any maternity protection or anything related to women empowerment and women leadership, this is the key for StreetNet International, since our main constituency, who are street market vendors, it's prevailed by women. So that's why we are very committed to promote and advocate for women's rights as workers, but also as mothers, because who not like women will promote and advocate for childcare, for the right of children to play, the right to children to enjoy their childhood, as it was pointed by our President Lorraine Sibanda. And as our president noted since the beginning of our webinar today, how many roles our women play in society, in life in general. And with increasing crises and conflicts, including the wars, I would say what we observe that women just literally took a lead to be main decision makers, not only main breadwinners and those who provide care for all, not only for children, but also for elderly, for those who are in need. But they are also always undervalued. They are always lacking protection as well as the children. So, and this is very difficult to combine as mother who is working woman and as mother who needs to provide services and care of her children. I would like to thank our dear treasurer and our leader, Jeanette, for sharing great experience on the project that we are doing in Rwanda, in her country, and how important it is to find those very practical solutions that they are doing, for example, through creating of those village saving and loan association groups. It's so helpful, how helpful it is to build further awareness among all women who are still as potential mothers also, but who can protect and foresee those challenges and somehow to mitigate them. So thank you so much, Jeanette, also for promoting the social dialogue among different stakeholders so that it's not only our partners as WIEGO and other organizations, but also that local authority and national authority is responding to this call of action, what you noted as recognition of childcare as essential work, as protection of the rights of women, including informal women workers, and also the value of care work through different policies. Thank you so much, dear Tracy, for sharing WIEGO experience, also finding very realistic solutions, including how we can help ourselves in terms of provisions of those childcare facilities in the market as a working place. And also for your all your research you do in WIEGO, because it helps us a lot to identify those clear gaps and how we can address them. I also thank our partner ILO from the ILO, IDA, for sharing experience and sharing the ILO perspective, as well as highlighting those international legal labor instruments which we can use as advocacy tools in our work. And I believe we will continue in this spirit and in this partnerships that we do together with the ILO, because we really need a lot of your support. Either it's at local, national, or also international advocacy efforts. And of course, I'm very happy that we started to extend our partnership, and we had today, for the first time, speaker Sanya from AWID, so that how it is important to join our efforts with feminist movements, who also made a great contribution and intervention about the feminist economy, about the feminist perspectives, because it all addresses us as women, but also as society in general. And thank you for highlighting about negotiation of a new social contract, which should be inclusive, which should be very gender sensitive. And this is somewhere where we can definitely continue joining our efforts for the prosperity and development of betterment for women and children in particular. I would like to thank to all of you again, and I believe it needs additional 2 hours to share experience, to share your input, but also to learn. And I'm very happy that this is a space where we can talk about these very relevant and very important concerns that we are promoting. And of course, this is our ongoing struggle because we believe in women empowerment. Because if we invest properly in care economy, as it was highlighted also by one of our speakers, if we advocate for women's rights and children's rights, then this is a key for our development in general. Thank you very much to also our media team, Margarita and Irene in particular, for all your efforts. We really appreciate it. And of course, we are happy to continue in any format to promote this dialogue, to promote also our strategizing together, because this is what we really need, especially now in the shaking world. We are very uncertain where we are moving, but only together and combining our efforts, we can promote and get some achievements what we are aiming for. Thank you so much. And I would like to say again, Happy International Women's Day. Thank you, Comrade Carlos, for highlighting this is not the only day where we remember that women are important and essential citizens of this world, but we need to always promote this message. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks everybody
Oksana.
again.
Thank you, thank you.
Merci aussi.
Thank you to all
Thank you so much.
participants. And we'll share the recording
Thank you.
of the webinar
Thanks
later.
everybody. We will be in touch, and I think we can wrap up. But thank you again to all the speakers, and big thanks to our interpreters, Dimitri and Evangelina, again for making the
Thank you
discussion
very much.
possible.
Thank you very much.
We'll be in touch, sharing the
Thank you.
presentations and
Bye.
everything.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.